So the first part of getting triggered is understanding I've just heard something or someone has said something to me and I began to feel emotion. It has a great power over us, and that's why we're doing this episode. Have you ever been on a date and a man says something lewd to you, or maybe a guy emotionally triggers you by saying something about your body, making a comment about your body? Has that ever happened to you?
Yes. And who hasn't? Who can say no to that question?
We've all had men emotionally trigger us, say something about our body, or make a comment that really triggers us. That's why in this week's episode of When He, we're going to be discussing emotional triggers, especially about those about your body or lewd comments.
This is such an important topic. Forget good. It's such an important topic because all of us, there's so many of us. This is the Me Too stuff. And this can really shake us. It can put us off dating forever. It can set us back. It can take us out of the dating game altogether. What we really want is to be wives, to be mothers, to live our best girl life, to live our best woman life, and completely take ourselves out of the game because we've gotten triggered by a man.
The guy has said something that makes us go, I'm out. I'm not doing this anymore. I'll share a little bit about what happened to me on a date. We can talk a little bit about what's happened with some of our clients. But being emotionally triggered by men can just really make a woman, it can make her just want to quit dating or feel so insecure and bad about herself. It has a great power over us. And that's why we're doing this episode.
They open up their whole dating, the dating apps, and it's all filth.
What's going on?
Where can we go from there? And how do we keep a good attitude? What is good attitude? Also, what is a good attitude in all of this? When you're getting all of this grossness from boys and man bodies, what can you do to turn this around and take your power back so that you stay on track for what you really want most? That partnership, sacred relationship, union, all of the good stuff that we yearn for and slog through the muck. What makes it worth it when you have an experience like this? It can really take you out. What does it mean to be emotionally triggered?
A person can trigger you and not even know they're triggering you. It can be a really complex thing when you get emotionally triggered, which is why, as you know, in our group I Heart Love Academy and in our teachings, we teach women how to first manage what they're feeling, identify what you're feeling, and manage it. And that could be a separate video all to itself, but I definitely want to start there by knowing what is the sensation, what is the feeling when you get triggered, what begins to happen in your body, where do your thoughts go, what do you begin to feel? Does your face get hot? Do your palms get sweaty? Does your heart begin to race? So the first part of getting triggered is understanding I've just heard something or someone has said something to me and I began to feel emotion in my body. And you began to feel that emotion in your body because you began to think something. Now, I'm going to share a quick example about a man that back when I was single, I had been having several phone calls with him. We were setting up the date. He was a physician, and I was super excited to go on a date with a doctor. Really excited about that. I'll never forget. I'm sitting there and I'm probably leaning forward or whatever. And he turns to me and goes, "You got some really nice tits." Right. And here it is. It's our first date. And all my hopes and dreams just went like this. I wanted to throw my drink in his face. I wanted to storm out. I wanted to cry. I felt all the things. And then I went back to my work, which is like, I think I do have some nice ones, I have to be honest. So there's a little bit of part of being on a date is we're here to check each other out. We're here to see if we like each other physically. I'm not really looking for a man who's going to comment about that on our first date and say it that way. So it was definitely so lewd and crude of him. But I instead rolled with it. And I told him, I said, I feel really embarrassed hearing that. That's making me feel really self-conscious. And when I said that, what I was really feeling, his face just completely changed. And he became very focused on my experience that I was having with him in that moment. Now, I will tell you, I didn't ever see him again. I didn't want to go out on another date with him for that reason and some other reasons. But that was a huge game changer, is noticing it was like a fury of emotions. I wanted to run out. I wanted to throw him a drink in his face. For a lot of women, it's a very similar thing when a guy calls them baby or honey. They get this instant feeling of, how dare you? And it's really important to be able to step back, process what you're feeling, and make sure you're taking the action, saying the words that are really in alignment with that wonderful, juicy, feminine energy.
I think what we're talking about is the slowing down. It's noticing, whoa, I am about to sick the dogs on him. Let him know that he's done something very wrong. Whether you choose to go out with him again, whether you choose to end the date early, those are options that will be available to you. And we could talk about that. In that moment, each and every moment that you are in front of a man can be a very healing moment. That's what I'm taking away from what Adrienne's sharing. And she could have done any of those things. She could have thrown her drink in his face
I would
and
love to have
out,
thrown my drink.
right? It would have been cathartic. It would have been amazing. You've got a lot of options, got a lot more options available. Seeing how fast you can see, will this man be available to go deeper? If I slow myself down, what other information is actually coming up? And if he's being weird and throwing that stuff at you, there's a message there. And I'm definitely not saying just sit there and take it. Not what you did at all. And I would not suggest just sitting there and being like, oh, this is uncomfortable. But you actually voiced that. And
I did. I felt the tears welling up in my eyes at that moment. I was in a pretty emotional place, and it just felt, I was like, I'm just going to go for it, because what do I have to lose? That's what these men are thinking sometimes too. They're just like, I'm going to go for it. What do I have to lose? I'm going to say what I want to say. And I know in a previous video, we talked about that sort of privileged, entitled mindset that a lot of men have, maybe inherently, where they can feel like they can get away with saying something like this to a woman. We have that concept of that he's going to get away with that. And instead, tell him how you're feeling, tell him what you're experiencing. Don't tell him what you're feeling and experiencing, hoping he'll come to your rescue, because that might not happen. But it's your right to tell him how you feel, and for you to identify with how you feel. Now, you brought up something interesting to me. You said there are a lot of different ways that you could get out of that. And what would you have done, or what would you suggest, or what are some options for women to get out of a situation like that?
to be really honest, just with some compassion, what I would like to say that I would do in a similar situation may not be, you may be really surprised at what actually happens for you when you're in the hot seat. So please have compassion on yourself. Please have compassion on yourself. I could excuse myself to go to the bathroom and then just disappear. Just poof, disappear.
Always an option.
That is an option. I really love what you did. It's lovely when a man picks up what you're putting down and interacts and leans
But we're
in.
not guaranteed that. And I think there is a time till you said, get up and walk out. You're sending a that messenger just got sent to me, but sometimes it's much more subtle. You were sharing with me something that you had gone through with a client of yours where it was, I think it was just maybe a little, well, why don't you tell it? I'll let you share.
So I have this gorgeous girl. She's trying to online date, and everyone showing up, everyone that she's going out with, all of the dates just seem to have a sexual edge to them. And she's all like, Natalina, I am not. I like to have fun, but this is extreme.
What is that show that's called? Is it Fboy Island or something like that? So,
well, how can we spin it so that it serves you? How can you play with that energy? But I also don't want you to get thrown into the, if I don't play it cool, if I don't be the cool girl, then I will get nothing. Let's go back to that dinner situation. You could have easily, any of us could have easily gone, oh, easy. Could we have gone, I'm feeling like actually saying these words. I'm feeling like getting up and leaving right now. I'm really feeling like getting up and walking out right now. I'm feeling like leaving right now. Or even telling him, really feeling like I would be justified if I threw this water in your face. And just sit.
Let the emotions go over your face. Process it. Feel it. Because so often we're hiding it. Again, we want to be that fun girl. We don't want to make a scene, or we feel like we can't express our feelings because someone might ask us, are we on our period, or are we going through menopause? It's some reason to make ourselves smaller, whereas feminine energy is really about making yourself a lot bigger and having your emotions out there. So what did you do with your client who kept getting all of the emails and messages on her dating profile and they were all sexual in nature?
We're going back to how the dating profile is set up, period. How are you talking about yourself? How are you talking about what you want? How are you actually communicating what it is that you would really find delightful in a man's companionship? If you're on
Mhm.
a dating site, if you're got a profile going on, that's immediately going to be a tool that helps you. I feel really happy with the sun. I'm just riffing off of here. Waking up and feeling the coffee go down my throat and feeling the sun. This is where you can find me. You're making cameos of what it's like to be in your world and what you want from him.
Mhm,
Oh,
mhm.
you walk by and you smile at me and I just feel like a queen. Moments where he can feel himself and feel called to step into that king energy with you.
I love that. So it really does start with the dating profile. And when you revised her profile, which is something we do in our group and in our own private coaching practices, when you revised her profile, was she able to attract a different type of man?
I think this is really fascinating. And because I don't want you to be like, oh, I need to have the man. As soon as I tweak my profile, the one is going to show up. But what
Mhm.
I do want you
Yeah,
to see is the different kind of men that are
that's right.
showing up for you. And
Yeah.
this, yeah, this is a big thing is what's happening now. What just with these tiny little tweaks, what's happening now? What's the communication look like? Who's showing up for you? How does that feel?
You make a really good point. The results are not always instant. You don't always have an instant. I have loads of testimonials of weddings and engagements and all these things, but these are women who started doing the work. They started investing in themselves, speaking a little differently. It's not that you have to change who you are, but you're just finding your voice in a different way and speaking in a new way that men can hear. And if the man doesn't hear it and he drops you and he dismisses your feelings, well, there are a lot more men out there. That's right. You have to let them out to let the good one in. But we should talk about body comments.
I don't know any woman who hasn't had at least one moment of not feeling secure in how she looks, whatever that is. And we're gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous women. Gorgeous
Yeah.
women. This is all of us. We're all in this together. It doesn't matter what a man is saying. He just says, I've noticed you have a body. And we'll be like, oh no, don't look. This can be a really loaded thing. The first thing that I want to share here is these men think that you are gorgeous. They want to touch you. They want in there.
And they have a hard time holding back a lot of the times. That's why they say these stupid things.
If you can mentally translate, he wants me. Have all of the confidence of a Chad.
Yeah.
He wants me. And even though I don't feel really awesome with this, hey, it's kind of interesting. He's leaning in.
But what
And
about the negative comments?
oh,
What about when men say something negative to us? I'll never forget one day, I'll share something from my past. There have been a few times guys have called me fat. One day I was having a really, really bad day and I was wearing some sloppy sweatpants and just feeling bad about myself. And I happened to be at a gas station area and this is when you had to pump and pay. And I'm walking over and this guy's just speeding up in his car so fast and he goes, "Get out of the way, fat ass." And I'm just like, oh my God, what a mean thing to say. And I just remember how it just made me like just emotionally. Because for every good comment out there that men can say about our bodies, there's something inappropriate. And it's incredibly emotionally triggering. I had a client not too long ago. Her guy was like, if you keep eating like that cellulite you already have is only going to get worse. And they're in their 20s. And I'm like, whoo, he's really going to hate it after a baby or menopause or you gain weight or you get sick. So men are going to say these things to us. They're going to say them. And do we leave them? Do we just dump them and walk out the door when that happens? We have to think about how we want to deal with this in our feminine energy.
there's two ways that you can go with this. We want to find out when to let a man go as soon as possible. And if this is starting this soon, you know what you can expect long term. Communication, you're entitled to talk to me however you want, and this is not this is not helping me. I do not like this.
Mm.
So give yourself a timeline and be like, I've noticed that this is a pattern and I don't know what's here for me or why I'm still around or why I still want him. And we could do deep dive going that way. On the flip side, if you want to use this as a, what part of me doesn't want to be seen? This is shadow work stuff where that person, honestly, how could you turn that into some rainbow thing, some sunshine, rainbows, and ponies? That man saw you. And it may be really hard for you to believe that he thought you were hot, but what if that was the truth? The story that we make up is kind of weird and usually hurtful. How we internalize that from someone who didn't know us for longer than 2 seconds.
He saw me. What does that mean?
Aware of your presence, aware of you taking up space in the world. That's something else that we women struggle with, that you exist. He saw you.
So if a guy has said something that's hurt your feelings, or as Natalina described to us, made us feel seen in a way that we're uncomfortable, or they've just been downright lewd, behaving badly, and it's emotionally triggered you, it's really important to take a second, step back, and understand this man is often responding from a very animal place, a very quick response place. It doesn't necessarily mean what he is saying is true or that what he's saying will last a lifetime. It could just be what he's feeling in the moment, and it could be based on a lot of different things. It's not necessarily truthfully about you. And here's the real thing, is that how you feel about yourself is the most important part. So if a man has emotionally triggered you, he's been lewd, we're going to recap real quick what you can do to help yourself in these moments. Now, Lena, why don't you kick us off with the first one?
So the first one is you want to see how you're being triggered. You want to catch your patterns. What's going on for you internally? Okay, that's the first one. The second one is, what are your options? What are all the different options? If you've found yourself going the same route every single time you find yourself triggered, let's try a different option. See how that feels. Try them all. And with all of these men doing all the things that they're doing, let that be a hall pass for you.
I like that. And then another thing that you can add on is that this is really a learning experience. We talk a lot about how men are bringing us that message. We're here to learn something from this. Are you here to learn that a guy thinks you're a 4 or a guy thinks you're fat or a guy says not? You're not here to learn that message. You're actually learning how to respond to that message. Because as I tell everyone, you think dating is hard. Wait until you're married and your husband says something like that and you're already in it. And your husband doesn't really mean it, but your husband will trigger you in ways that a date maybe never will. And so right now is your time for practice with these sort of statements. And you can always go deeper into how you could want to respond. You could even create scenarios and play out how your higher self, how your best feminine energy self would respond to those situations.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of When He, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.